Hello and welcome back. In this session, we're going to talk about relationships. So, what are relationships? Well, relationship fields are used to relate two records or more in Salesforce. There are two main types of relationships. We have lookup relationships and master detail relationships. Lookup relationships provide a loose relationship between records, whereas master detail relationships provide a much more close relationship between records. Relationships are one-to-many as standard in Salesforce, meaning that one parent record can have many child records. When it comes to lookup relationships, you have a few types. There are lookup, self, hierarchical, external, and indirect. Now, master detail relationships do provide a much tighter link, and there are quite a few things you need to know about them. Firstly, the detail record in a master detail relationship has no owner, which means that security is inherited from the master record. An implication of this is that detail records cannot be part of queues, sharing rules, or manually shared. A really important thing to know is that when a master record is deleted, so are all of the detail records. That's really important, so make sure you remember that. While the standard relationships out of the box with Salesforce is one-to-many, you can create a junction object to facilitate a many-to-many relationship. The junction object just sits between the two objects and is on the detail side of a master detail relationship with both. Let's take a closer look at lookup relationships first. These relate two objects loosely, and they can come in a couple of forms. They can be one-to-one, one-to-many, self, hierarchical, external, and indirect. One-to-many is when one record is related to many of another record. For example, an account can have many contacts, therefore it's a one-to-many relationship. Self is when a record is related to a record of the same object. So for example, if we had a lookup field on the asset record that was looking for another asset record, it would be classed as a self lookup. So a self relationship is just a relationship field on an object that's looking for a record of the same object. A hierarchical relationship is a self relationship for the user object, and you can see this on the user detail for the user's manager. And then we have external and indirect relationships. You don't need to worry too much about these, just know that they're used to relate external objects. So let's head into Salesforce and let's take a closer look at the lookup relationship field. We're going to open up the Burlington Textiles Corp of America account, and we're going to take a look at the related list. What you see here are all records that have a relationship field that points to this account. So these are the many in the one-to-many relationship. And if we open up a contact, we head to the details, you'll be able to see that there's a field called account name. This is a lookup relationship field that is looking for an account. We also have another lookup field, and this is for the reports to field. While this is a lookup field, because it's looking for another record of the same type, another contact, it's called a self relationship. So it's easy to remember because a self relationship is a relationship field that is looking for a record of the same object that the field is created on. And just to clarify that point, when you create a relationship field, you create it on the many of the one-to-many relationship object. So because an account can have many contacts, the lookup is created on the contact, as that is on the many side of the one-to-many relationship. Next, let's talk about hierarchical relationships. But to do that, let's first head into Setup. Then we're going to search for users in the Quick Find search bar, and we'll open up our user. If we edit the user, you can see that we have a field called Manager, and this is a lookup field that's looking for another user, so you would think that it's a self relationship. But because it's on the user record, it's actually called a hierarchical relationship. So a hierarchical relationship is just a self relationship that is on the user object. But now let's talk about master detail relationships. So what are master detail relationships? Well, they're used to relate two objects tightly in a parent-child relationship. A couple of the key features, as we've already discussed, is that when the master record is deleted, all of the detail records are deleted too. So if we had an opportunity with multiple related quotes, if the opportunity was deleted, then so would all the quotes. And there are a couple of things that you need to know as well. There's a limit of 2 master detail relationships per object, and when you create a detail record, it doesn't have an owner. In a way, the master record is the owner. This means that the detail record cannot be part of queues, used in sharing rules, or manually shared. This also impacts sharing and security, as detail records inherit the security settings of the master record. When it comes to roll-up summary fields, they can only be created on the master side of the master detail relationship. You can create many-to-many relationships using junction objects, and a junction object is just a custom object that creates a link between two other objects, and this is done through creating two master detail relationships on the junction object. A great example of this is jobs and applications. Imagine you run a recruitment company and you have a number of jobs that candidates are applying for. You would have multiple job records and multiple candidate records, but you may have a candidate that applies for multiple jobs. This would mean that a job would have multiple candidate records and a candidate would have multiple job records. Now this is where a junction object will come in to facilitate this relationship. You would create a custom object called job applications, and that would link a job to many candidates and a candidate to many jobs. Now don't worry too much about understanding junction objects, just know that they're used to create many-to-many relationships. So let's have a quick recap before we move on to the schema builder. Relationship fields are used to relate records, and as standard they are a one-to-many relationship. Lookup relationships offer a loose link, and you have multiple types such as lookup, self, hierarchical, external, and indirect. Master detail relationships offer a much tighter link, and the detail record on the master detail relationship has no owner, so security is inherited from the master record. Detail records cannot be part of queues, sharing rules, or manually shared, and when the master record is deleted, so are its children. Master records can have roll-up summaries, but there is a limit of 2 master detail relationships per object, and a junction object is used to facilitate a many-to-many relationship.